Welcome to the Ear for Fear podcast, the horror movie podcast that boils and ghouls and dead alike are screaming for. Don't be afraid to listen as Rick and the Creeps bore their way into your brains, slither down onto your arteries, into your still beating hearts.
Hi, welcome to the Ear for Fear podcast. This is the podcast that talks about scary movies or movies trying to be scary. I'm Rick. I got a special guest. I got my cousin back in the house, Scott Weisenhunt.
Hello.
Hey, thanks again for coming on out, buddy. Today, you and I are going to be talking about 2019's The Queen of Black Magic. All right, man. So I think I recommended this one.
Yeah, I had never heard of it.
Yeah, and I forgot.
I wanted to do Mandy.
Did you want to do? You wanted to do?
I always want to do Mandy.
Well, we'll do that one next time you come out. That's the Nicolas Cage one.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that one.
I know you keep saying it. I keep saying I have to do that.
We got to do. Okay,
I'm push Mandy on every single person.
Everyone.
I know.
Okay. I tell you what, we'll do that one for sure next time. I know there was another one that you brought up. I can't remember what it was though. Now
it was probably the other Nicolas Cage movie.
Was it?
Color Out of Space. Was it that
one?
Oh,
the color. Oh, I don't know if it was that one. There was one we were texting on. This was like a couple months back, and I want to say it was like a sci-fi horror. It wasn't Life Force.
Life Force.
Was it Life Force?
You already did Life Force, right?
No, we haven't done Life Force.
Okay. Yeah. Life Force.
So maybe next time we do Mandy and Life Force. So we have to remember that. You'll have to remember it because I'm older and I forget everything.
Definitely.
But today we're doing this one. I can't remember either Donovan or Morris or both of them told me about this movie. And I checked out the trailer, and it looks kind of interesting. You know, I'm all for some like foreign horror movies. I love those. I had never seen this. It's Indonesia. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Indonesian.
Yes.
Indonesian. And I didn't know that this is kind of loosely based off of a 1981 remake of a movie of similar name.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of the original. I read that as saying, but I've never seen the original.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do a ton of research on it, but I think it was 1981. I can't remember the name of it. My guess is maybe it translates to The Queen of Black Magic.
I think it's the same title.
Same title, okay.
I don't know what it is in Indonesia.
You want to take a chance of?
No, I'm not going to do that.
All right. So let's do a quick synopsis here. So what happens is there's a family. They're traveling to an orphanage, and this is where the father had grown up, and I guess because the facility's director is ill, so they want to go visit him.
Right, he's like their father figure before they were actually
adopted by, and I don't remember when they were adopted. It was probably like somewhere in the movie. It looked like they were anywhere from maybe 13 to 16. That's going to be my guess.
Right.
So they were adopted, and then a couple other ones. I think there was two other guys that came with their families. Actually, I think it was only their wives, and to visit him. But while they're there, there's a bunch of supernatural things that are happening, and it's basically threatening their lives. And basically there's like some sort of like underlining thing that we just don't know about yet. That's the cause of all of this. It was something that was kind of buried long ago, and it resurfaces. And I think this is what we're seeing here. But that's kind of the gist of, this movie.
Full spoilers.
Full spoilers.
1, 2 spoilers coming for you.
So I watched it this morning. I did. I watched it this morning. So it's been a hectic last couple days, and I know I've mentioned this before. Because I'm at 50 these days, and my memory is just terrible. I watch if I've never seen a movie. Like, I've never seen this. Like, if this was some classic, I've seen it a million times.
Right.
I had never seen this, and I'm like, okay, let me watch it in the morning because then it'll be somewhat fresh into my my memory banks here.
Now, like last time we did it, we'd watch Videodrome, and I've seen that. I've seen that a million times. Yeah. And then Psycho Gorman, I've watched at least twice. But yeah, this is the first time I've seen this. I never heard of it. This is actually the first Indonesian film I've ever seen.
Yeah. I don't remember if do you. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think Shudder, the original Shudder, was Indonesia. I can't read Indonesian. I'm trying to remember where that was filmed. I don't know if that was Thai. I can't remember. But we have found on this podcast, I don't know what episode this is. We might be 87. This might be 87. I think we've done our fair share of episodes from other countries. Yeah. And I found, honestly, for the most part, dude, they've all been pretty good. Mm-hmm. And we're not just randomly picking them going, okay, these are supposed to be the best horror movie from pick a country. That's not what we're doing. We're just checking out a random trailer, or maybe I see something online, or I don't know, like I said, Donovan or a friend will say, hey, check this out. And then we just check it out, kind of go into it blind, and then hopefully it's good. And for the most part, they've been pretty good. I mean, I've enjoyed most of them.
Yeah.
It's hard with me with subtitles because I when I don't watch a lot of subtitles and then I watch one like this one was, I have to kind of get back into the swing of it. I'm like, oh crap, I gotta see what's going on in the movie and then look at the subtitles. And there was a lot of dialogue in this one. Typically in some of these other movies, there's not a lot of dialogue, so I'm like not missing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I was straining today
It's tough when there's something visually happening so much, and you want to pay attention. You want to get that feeling, things are kind of bubbling under the surface, but then you have to keep looking down. No, I get it.
Yeah.
I've been watching everything with subtitles lately, though, because we have a newborn. And so we have him in the room, and he's crying or we're trying to keep him asleep. Yeah, so we have the volume turned way down. So everything's with subtitles. So I'm used to it now.
I remember those days, man. You got to be super quiet. Like I remember Donovan would, if a pin dropped, he would wake up.
Yeah, and when
is that Orion? He's like that?
He's not like that, but I mean, you realize when you have a newborn that everything in your everything in your house like creaks, and you don't realize that before then. It's like all the floorboards like creak, everything makes a noise, and it's so hard to avoid that. He's okay. Yeah, but yeah,
I would say if I could give you any advice, I would say make as much noise, because then he just gets used to it and he won't be so easily woken up.
Yeah, right.
Some people will say, go ahead while he's taking a nap, go and vacuum. People will say that because then he gets used to that noise and he's not waking up as much.
What about jackhammering at 8:00 every morning?
There you go. Yeah.
That may help.
Yeah. But so this was the first time either of us have seen this. Offhand, what did you think about the movie?
I liked it. I thought it was. It's hard when you watch non-Western. Like there's foreign films, but especially like in Europe, when you're watching something that's non-Western, though, unless you're like well versed with their the film in that country, it's a little bit difficult because everywhere has a different culture and they have their own film history. Like, when you're talking about France and a lot of European countries, it's a little bit different because they watch so many American movies and a lot of American directors, especially in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, watched a lot of foreign films. So there's still like very Western stuff. It has a lot of history together, but it's tough when you're watching a non-Western film because you're wondering like, if I'm missing something, is it just because they have something in cultural vernacular that that I don't have? So it's a little bit difficult that way. Is this filmmaker paying homage to something else that I don't know about, and that's why I have no idea what the fuck is going on right now? I'm not saying this movie is like that. I'm just saying it's a little bit, it's kind of tough doing that.
I agree. So, and we've chatted about this before with other foreign movies. Are we missing something? Is something being lost in translation that someone in, say, Indonesia, it's like they totally get it, but
right.
But you and I watching this, like I felt like I can't remember what they were saying. I thought he kept calling them bro. And I thought that was happening a lot. And I'm like, well, is that a thing? Because, when you're hanging out with your dudes and you're having some drinks or whatever the heck you're doing, you might say bro once or twice, but it felt like bro was being said all the time in this movie. And it was weird when it was being said, like weird stuff was happening, or they were finding someone, they were finding the kids in the bus and they were dead, and he would call them bro. And it was just like, it just seemed weird. I don't know if it's when it's, when it's being translated to American subtitles. Are they finding the closest thing that we might be able to relate to?
Yeah.
But it's maybe not, I don't know.
I just thought because they considered, all three of those guys consider themselves brothers, that they kept calling each other
You think
bro.
that's why they were calling
That's
that?
what I thought, but I don't know. There could be something else
I
going
don't
on.
know. And there was I can't remember some of the other dialogue. It just seemed a little, some of it seemed strange. Not a lot of it. For the most part, like this movie was filmed, I thought it looked really good.
Yeah,
Like
very
it looked
competent.
good.
Yeah,
Very much so.
And it doesn't fall into a lot of the pitfalls that a lot of American filmmaking has fallen into in the last 5 years, which is like just cheap editing, like not a lot of thought to composition of your framing, trying to do everything in post. And a lot of TV shows and films are, huge ones, fall into a lot of these problems, and it just feels so like easily avoidable. But this felt really competently filmed, and
It did. Like I just from the beginning when they were driving to the orphanage, and they hit something. He thought they hit a deer, and I was that shot with the cornfields, and it just looked. I think it was. Was that a cornfield? It looked like a cornfield.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
and it just looked really good. Everything about it, the colors and the shot itself, like. I felt that there was everything they did here, other than maybe a few bug effects.
I was going to say that. Yeah, it does bother me like these days. Some of the CGI, it's like, you could have just gone the route of like not showing us everything and done a little bit of practical stuff, and it would have been. Yeah, maybe better. It's just when they show so much, they have to rely on the CGI, and it takes you out of it.
It does,
especially when the guy's eye popped out.
Yeah, that wasn't as cool as I wanted it to be.
Yeah,
the bug stuff as a whole, like they're fast. So the thing was, I was going to look this up. Like, do they just want us to feel super uncomfortable with what's happening because of all the bugs? Like they're going inside the mouth, they're coming out, they're throwing it up, they're going into crevices. Like, bugs as a whole are a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Then I was thinking, okay, well, she's a kind of a witch, right? She does black. Is that a thing? Like, are bugs a prominent thing when it comes to witchery?
And that's the other thing. In that country, like, is there a thing with black magic? Is there a history of like things they can do, or things that's that they're afraid of people doing that back in the day?
Could be.
I really wasn't sure about that.
I mean, there was a lot of the like. I think there was one scene where one of the ladies was eating caterpillars, which I guess are poisonous, but they were all furry. And then there was like other like. I don't know what those bugs are, but they look like millipedes or centipede or whatever that. Centipedes.
Centipedes. Yeah.
All of those in their tiny little. What I've noticed is that it's. That for the most part, when you CGI bugs, they just don't. They don't look like. I'm not saying the bug itself doesn't look good. If you're CGIing a bug and let's say it's on a table or on like a white wall, it looks fantastic. When it's trying to come out of someone's body, going in or out, it just never looks great.
Right.
And that's kind of what I felt in this. Like I didn't have like a lot of. Like I didn't love this movie. I thought it was I thought it was a solid movie. Like there were some things that were going on here that I thought that scared me a little bit. They were a little creepy. I was uncomfortable a bit, more so with the bug stuff. I guess my only thing I guess I had an issue with was probably the CGI bugs, and that's not a huge thing.
That's not a huge thing.
It's really not, because I thought all the characters were really good.
Especially in the beginning of the movie. I really enjoyed the car ride with the family, the humor. It was, translated really well with the different personalities of the kids.
Yes, absolutely.
And it was like maybe the first 30 minutes you were kind of getting to know these characters. At a certain point, I think they kind of dropped a lot of that when the horror kind of took over.
Yeah, when the horror kicked in, all that kind of went out.
I really enjoyed that first 30, 40 minutes.
I did. That we're getting that kind of that build up, and we're getting the depth of some of these characters.
Yeah.
And I was all for that. But I know at some point it's like, that horror element is going to kick in, and then some of that stuff is going to go away. And that's kind of typical of, not say all horror movies, but a lot of horror movies do that. They kind of get away,
Yeah.
I would say the really good ones, they know how to balance that.
Exactly. Or, they build up a character, and then when the horror kicks in, that person gets... what happens to that person has a lot to do with their character or how they deal with it.
Yeah.
So at a certain, when the horror kicks into this movie, the characterization just goes out the window. People just start, basically, they're just getting tortured, and it has nothing to do with who they are or their background or their personality. It's just everybody's getting tortured.
Well, so I will say this, and maybe you'll agree or disagree. What I know,
there's one great scene, and it's before things really kick in. It's in the part of the movie where things start to go kind of wrong.
Yeah.
But the scene that I really liked was, which is still kind of that first 40 minutes, I think, maybe. So the wife of one of the brothers,
was it Anton? The one that had she kept spraying hand sanitizer?
No, I like that one too.
Oh, the one that she thinks she's fat when she's clearly not.
Yes.
So that was Jeffrey's wife.
Yeah.
Was that Abe? Oh, no, that was Lena?
Lena. Yeah.
Lena.
So
she was gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of so during the characterization, they're talking, and there's some sort of marital problem going on. They don't really touch upon it after that. And then they're talking, and she keeps bringing up that she thinks she's fat, and everybody keeps telling her, you look good, you're skinny. And she goes, and she's just by herself, and she passes by a mirror, and it's a great effect.
Yes.
In the mirror, she's got an extra chin.
I noticed
she's got a little bit of a roll.
Yes.
And at first, it takes a second, because the camera, it's just... And I love that they're not trying to overdo everything like so many movies these days. 40 different camera angles in one scene, different shots. It's just one shot.
Yeah.
She walks up to the mirror, takes a second for you to realize, oh, shit. They're doing this. And then she pulls out a knife and she starts cutting pieces off. And that was a great scene.
Oh, it was.
I loved it. And
I did too, man.
It was a mix of practical, and there was some CGI there, but you could really...
No, honestly, that was one of my. That might have been my favorite part too. I thought the way they did it was done. They executed it really well, because and they don't really get into it. I think one of the friends said, "Well, you guys are just recently married, so maybe you're going through those." Those newlywed problems. I didn't think there was a lot of problems when you're newlywed. It's usually when you're married a long time.
They never really touched upon that, and then after that. Those two characters almost never interacted after that scene. It's just because she cuts part of her stomach. It was cool how they did it. Because it looked like she cut apart, and it almost looked like dead skin. And she just peeled it off, and she smiled, and then she cut the little... No blood at all.
No blood. Yeah. And I was okay, this is trippy. And then she cuts that little thing underneath her neck, and the same thing. And then I was thinking to myself, okay, what's going to happen is she's obviously imagining this, and then we're going to see what's really happening. She's going to be bleeding to death.
Yeah.
And then Jeffrey comes out of the room and sees her, and he's definitely, upset, and he's concerned, and so there's that, and then let's run through the characters really fast. There's a lot of characters. There's normally maybe 5 or 6 that we need to care about. There is 14 here. So Hanif.
Maybe there's too many characters.
Maybe there's too many.
Yeah, because it's hard to keep track of people. And when they were so there's a scene later on when all these different people are getting tortured in different rooms. And I was like, wait, who is that? Who is that?
So I felt, the only time I was a little confused was when, at the beginning of the movie, when we think he hits a deer, but he actually hits one of the children. I could not tell the difference between her and then the one girl, I think, what was her name? Was it Ronnie? That we think is she's just just an orphan, but then we find out later on in the movie that she's helping out this witch.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't tell because they're wearing the same uniform. Other than that, I felt okay enough. Like I kind of understood who was with who.
Yeah.
But Hanif and Nadia, so Hanif was one of the three guys that was at the orphanage, and of course he's an adult now. He's married. He's got three kids: Dina, Haki, and Sandy. And so they're a family, and I like this family. I really do. And then you have Maman and Siti. They're the married couple that works at the orphanage.
They were orphans that were never
adopted, and so they stayed there, and they were a little.
And
weird.
the implication is because there's something wrong with they're ugly. That's what they keep bringing up, and because the little boy is like, I think you're handsome, and I think you're beautiful. Yeah. So the one dude's got something. His face twitches, and then the girl was scalded with some hot water. So her eyes kind of covered, or it's kind of shut.
Yeah. And then so they're a little, they're a little strange, but I think they're depicted that way because then we think maybe they're part of this.
Right.
And then we have Anton and his wife Ava, and then Jeffrey and Lena, and then you got Myrnie, is that how you pronounce her name? We end up finding that she is she's the witch. They talk about her as that she was their friend when they were there at the orphanage. But something happens to is it Mira? What was the mom's name? Mira?
Yeah.
I think it was Mira, right? And then so that's kind of and then you got Mr. Bandy, who we find out is a pedophile.
Yeah, the story that everybody finds out that they think is that this lady Miri that she has a
was it Mira? I can't remember. Mira, I forget. Damn, I wrote it down. I want to say it's Mira. So they think that something's wrong with Mira, right? That she is doing black magic. And so they basically locked her up in a room, and she ends up dying in the room. And, so that's the story they're giving us.
And the guy at the orphanage tells people that she burned like three other girls.
Yeah.
Like,
and then
to death.
And then Myrnie, and I know I'm saying that wrong. Myrnie disappears. They're saying that she took her and buried her in the forest, and she was never found again. Well, what we find out is that Mr. Bandy, the guy, the director, the owner of this orphanage, has been, I don't want to get into details, but he was doing stuff with the little girls.
Yeah. And
she found out and was protecting the girls, and he thought he'd frame her. And so she dies, and then they bury her in one of the bedrooms in the orphanage. Well, the one girl who sees this ends up being her daughter. And so she disappears, and I guess waits for 20 odd years to get her to seek her revenge. Right. I guess that was another small little thing. And again, I know it's convenient for the sake of the story. Where the hell was she for let's call it 25 years, okay?
Yeah.
Where was she for 25 years? Was she chilling out in the forest and she was doing her black magic training?
Just waiting for a time when all of those guys would come back and visit the old guy?
Because was it her that invited them all back? And if it's so, why didn't she invite them back 15, 20 years earlier? Because the Mr. Bandy, the pedophile dude, was there the whole time. Why don't you seek your revenge with him there? And if you felt that the other guys, which I don't think they did anything, I know they buried her, but they thought that she was doing bad things to these girls.
Yeah.
So I don't think they were at fault here. So, but she felt that, they did something to her mother.
Everybody was responsible.
Literally everyone, other than the Ronnie girl. Yeah. She literally tortured
that's implied
everyone.
that Ronnie is her daughter. Because so Ronnie is saying that she was left there by her mother.
Oh my God, I forgot about that, Scott.
And she says that a couple of times. So it's implied that
because she says to one of the other kids there says, she left you here. She's not coming back.
Right.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Honestly, until you mentioned this, I didn't even put that together. But you're absolutely right. That
Bernie's plan is to have the child drop her off at the same orphanage that she was, that she escaped from.
Yeah.
And then sometime down the road, come back and
20-something years later
kill everybody.
But couldn't she have done that already before?
Yeah, I don't. It's one of those things where if you think about it too much, you're just like, oh.
Yeah, I we always have that suspend belief, and it's like, and I think it's definitely true in this instance. I mean, they got him, they got everyone there under one roof, and then she tortured all of them, literally with everything. I found that a lot of these deaths were, or some of them died, some of them didn't die, but they were stuff that they were, I guess some of their weaknesses, like, the one wife who had a thing about germs. She had I guess a year earlier she had a rash, and she thought it was some sort of parasite that was attacking her.
Right, yeah.
It ended up just being a rash, but she literally wears a mask everywhere. She hand sanitizes everything that she touches. And so they played on that, right? When like the bugs were the bugs like got into her, and they were
coming out of her
skin and stuff.
Which I think is cool, but they also used the bug thing on her husband, who finds, well, he doesn't find the bus. They find the bus full of, there's a bunch of orphans that are supposed to be there, but they're on a bus trip.
Yeah.
And so the two of the guys come across this bus, and it's a kind of a cool scene the first time you see them, and they're just, all these kids are dead. Yeah. All these little orphans are in this bus, and they're just dead. Nobody knows. They think they're just out on a trip.
Yeah.
And so when the other guy, they send the third guy off.
Was it Anton?
Yeah, Anton to go basically pass by the bus and then go to the sheriff, right?
I think
it's like 2 hours away.
Yeah, 2 hours away. He was going to go to like get the police or something.
Yeah. So when he goes by the bus, the kids are turned around differently.
They're
all facing
that was creepy.
Yeah, and he doesn't know that. Only the audience knows that.
Yes. Yeah.
Which was cool.
It was.
And
cool.
then he tries to get out because I can't remember what startles him.
I think he hears a noise, and then I know he looks outside and he sees.
He steps on that egg.
Oh, yes.
Which is just filled with CGI bugs.
CGI bugs. Not great bugs, but yeah.
And then so he tries to get out, and when he turns back around, all the kids are facing him. And that's creepy.
But remember, he sees the witch in the bus door.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like, we don't really get to see her. We just kind of see almost like a shadow or a silhouette of her.
Right.
And then he sees her, and then, And
so they use the bug thing on him.
Yeah.
So
the bug was too much for me.
Yeah, they did it with everybody. Like the one lady starts eating all the caterpillars because she wants to be... Well, because
I guess at that point she was hungry.
She's hungry.
I don't know. She was literally dying, but
so there's a lot of motivations and things that are kind of unclear for like the black magic.
Yeah.
And there was, some deaths could have been different for different people depending on what was going on.
And that's the thing, Scott. It's like, do we know? I don't know. Are bugs a thing there in Indonesia? Or are they a sacred thing? And so for the fact that they're using bugs, does it make people more uncomfortable and more scared? I don't know. One bug thing I'm cool with.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. Like, if you want to just use it on Ava because she was worried about some sort of like skin, parasite. Okay, I get it. Everyone else, give me something a little different. Something a little different. Like, the kid when he was stapling, like, because the witch can manipulate them to do stuff. So when he was stapling his lips together with the staple gun, I don't know. Like, it was
Some
okay.
of that seemed very blah.
It just seemed like, there was, I was like,
forcing him to shoot the other kid with the pellet gun.
It was just whatever. Like, I wasn't like, it didn't. The only uncomfortable stuff I felt were the bug stuff because it's just, they're throwing up bugs. And honestly, other than that, like, stapling lips together should feel, I don't know, more uncomfortable.
It just didn't have anything to do with his character either.
No, not at all. Like I can understand if he'd never shut up. Like if his character was like if one of them said, "Hey, do you ever be quiet?" Okay, I could see how that would come into play. But it literally had there's no reason for it other than, well, how do we torture him? Okay, well, let's use a staple gun. I'm trying to think some of the other. We talked about the wives. I'm trying to think. Anton, I know for the most part when they come back and okay, so I know there was some one of the ladies, I want to say it was the one wife, Ava, she was taken over by the witch. Remember there was that scene on top of the car and she was, and the witch was speaking through her.
Right.
And then they said something about, show yourself or something like, because in their minds, They had just found out about what this Mr. Bandy was doing. And they were disgusted by it. They had nothing to do with this, but she was literally, well, I don't care. I'm killing everybody and I'm torturing everyone. So they told her to show herself, and then she did. You know, she was, I think, hovering, which I always dig. I will say this, man, because I don't want to forget to mention this. Her mother, who was buried underneath one of the rooms, and when the little kid, what was his name, Haki, was watching the video cassette, that was cool.
That was cool.
That was cool because, you know, she had her leg was broken when she was a kid or something. So when she walks, the foot's all mangled and it just looks creepy. And so
it was creepy.
It was creepy.
It reminded me a little bit of the Ring.
It did a little bit,
but I really liked when he was watching it and he's watching her move. It wasn't like the Ring where she's. I mean, until it became the Ring, where she wasn't coming exactly towards him. She was like off in another room. Yeah. And so he'd play it. He'd hear a noise. He'd stop it, and he'd look. And there was nothing there. And as he played it, you know, he doesn't see, but you see her like, you know, club footing up like right next to him, and that was creepy.
That was creepy.
Yeah, that was good.
I would say that
it lost me when it became the Ring and she was literally in front of him.
She was in front of what I thought was kind of cool, but yes, it was kind of a Ring. Was like underneath the TV stand, you could see her mangled leg.
Yeah, right.
That was kind of cool.
She was in the TV, right?
I don't know. I almost felt she was behind the TV. It felt like she was behind the TV. So it was cool, but then, like you said, it did have a Ring element. But it was still, it was the one part I thought, it wasn't my favorite part, but I found myself a little scared. Not that I haven't seen it before, but those things always creep me out. Like ghost stuff, dude, I love. Like ghosts, like those types of, especially in like Asia, where you know you have like The Grudge or The Ring.
Oh yeah.
And there's other movies that we've done where, you know, you have that long, stringy black hair that seems to cover. There always seems to be wearing maybe a white dress or a gown. They'll move kind of weird.
That's just creepy stuff.
It's creepy. And no matter how many times I see it, I still get a little freaked out. And so that was one of my...
Visually.
It is, man. It is. And
the idea of just a ghost doesn't scare me. But when it has a look like that and it's just something that it's mostly implied and then you finally see something, that's where the creepiness factor comes in.
For sure, man.
I like the kid though when he's watching it, and it was in the trailer that I watched first, and it's just like this when he sees this chick come to life like right next to him. It's just like like he's scared, but it was just like funny to me. I kind of laughed.
I like this kid because, dude, this kid was awesome because like later in the movie he freaking stabs the witch like and he's got to be what, 8? I mean, he's got to be around 7 to 8, and he's you know hero. He does get a little scared, but then it's like when push comes to shove and he has a chance, he stabs the damn witch, and dude, and she is like. She's got her shit dialed in, man. She's got like people in each room and literally torturing them. And what was the one room where it looked like water was...
just hot water.
Was it hot water? Was that what that was?
Yeah.
So scalding water.
Just burning them with water.
And there was like 4 of them in there.
Yeah.
And then the other room, I think it had the daughter and the son. And
I couldn't tell what he was spitting up.
It looked. It could have been bugs again.
It sounded like metal because it was hitting the ground and making like the sound like change makes when it hits the sound.
I wonder what it was.
But then. I wasn't sure what that was.
But they were in like a room and they were in some weird angle.
Yeah, and she was being whipped, and you can see.
Yes, the daughter was being. Yes. I didn't mind it so much. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. But
the only thing I think what really gets me is that. So not just the CGI, but sometimes when you rely on CGI, you just show everything in the scene. And sometimes things are more visceral if you're not showing things, if you're leaving things up to the imagination. Yeah. So I don't mind CGI so much, but usually when it's used, you're just showing everything in the scene. And so like having those things like whips, like that's happened. People have done that effect in the 80s with different movies, and they've been able to pull it off. Yeah. So, and it looks better. Sometimes.
Yeah,
but it didn't bother me.
No, it wasn't.
so much. It did.
Yeah, it was a little for me. Not a lot. It wasn't like, it was more so like I said, the bugs.
It just takes you out of it. You're like
a little bit.
That doesn't look
a little bit
completely real.
But I didn't feel like they stayed on her too long for it to become like a huge issue for me.
Yeah, right.
Like it didn't bother me so much. Like if they just sat on it, like, oh my God, can you move on to something else? But I mean, I thought, the witch itself. I mean,
on the scene where she gets her head chopped off.
Yeah,
and she. Her body walks over. That was cool, and puts it back on. That was pretty sweet.
I will say, man, like I've seen that effect done before, and what was cool, it was like when she walks over to get it, the head looks like a practical effect head, right?
Yeah.
But as she picks it up, the eyes open up, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Like you could have just been lazy about it and just had the eyes closed until the head comes on, but no, you gave me a little extra, and I was like, okay, I respect that.
That was a cool scene, and at that point, I didn't know what was practical, what was CGI, and that was a nice touch.
Yes,
I enjoyed that.
They took that. I mean, basically, her head pops off. I know the little boy stabs her. The head pops off.
Oh, that doesn't kill her, but
no, it
for some reason she showered in kerosene that morning. Because
I know that was a little lazy.
So the whole ending, so she just throws one candle at her, and she just like goes up in flames.
Yeah, that was.
And at that point, I was like, "Am I missing something here? Like, is there something else that has to do with why she just was immediately engulfed by one candle?"
What I thought was going to happen.
Is there something about fire and witches and black magic in Indonesia that I'm not getting? I don't know.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it's a thing that we don't know about, or it's just like, well, how can we? Okay, well, what else can we do? We stabbed her and we cut her head off, and she's not dying. So because there was a ton of candles everywhere. I thought what was going to happen was Nadia was going to flip the table, because there looked like there was, say, 50 candles on there, right? Flip the table in a way where they all land on her, and one's bound to catch her on fire, maybe, right?
If she bathes in kerosene, that morning.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not sure. Is it a thing where maybe it's an Indonesian thing? I'm not quite sure.
I don't know how much of this movie is a callback to the original, especially visual things.
Well, I will tell you this: at the very end of the movie, I don't know if you watched it, but I was watching the credits, and
it's all stuff from the original.
Yes, from the original, and some of it looked similar.
Yeah,
especially with the bugs.
With the bugs,
the damn bugs.
With the bugs again.
The bugs again. But so I don't know. Like I was like, was it just like they couldn't figure out how to kill her then? Because look, they've done this and this, and she's still alive. So it's like, well, what do we do? People always think fire is the answer, and so it's like, instead of giving us
why would that be the answer? If you can cut her head off and she comes back to life, why would fire?
I don't know.
I don't see this. So in this, unless we're not getting something that we're supposed to know because of movies in that in that era or in that area.
Yeah.
I was asked, like, if I have to ask, what are the rules? Then that means that in the movie they haven't established. They haven't shown us like the rules.
Okay, so let me ask you this here. So
what is her power?
Is it? Well, that's the thing. I know, right?
She's got the force. She can.
I don't know what she has.
She can possess people.
Yes, she can possess people. She can put her decapitated head back on.
She's invincible except for fire.
She can. Yeah, scalding water. She can make people throw. I mean, she can manipulate people into doing stuff. But one candle. So let me think.
Tiny candle too.
Tiny candle. Let me ask you this. Is it safe to say that her mother was also into black magic, correct?
Yeah, they talked about that, how she was using black magic to
protect the girls that the guy was doing. Yeah, Mr. Bandy was doing stuff to. So she was using the black magic for good. So then, obviously, when her mother dies and she has 25 years to stew in this, she obviously
that apple fell way off the tree.
Like, dude, like she spent 25 years perfecting her black magic for bad, but it's like, well, what? I don't know. Like, is there a book? Is there like, what are you tapping into?
Is it spells? Is it like
Like-
Harry Potter? I don't know.
Yeah,
What
like
are the
is
rules?
is she in the forest and she's thinking of stuff with her mind and she's moving trees, or like bark's falling off the tree, or she's exploding animals. I don't know what.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
what is she doing to perfect this
Yeah.
in the forest?
And
Because
either-
where is she for? She's in the. Okay, maybe
Where's she
she's
live?
not. Maybe she's not in the forest for 25 years. Because if that Ronnie girl was her daughter, Ronnie looks about 15.
Yeah.
So when did she dropped her off at 10? So for 10 years, where was she raising her? Was she raising her out in the forest?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, were they chilling somewhere in some, like, I don't know, subdivision of Indonesia? And then she decided, you know what? I remember this stuff happening and now I'm mad, and then spent 5 years in the forest. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, you know, I know we're kind of just whatever
This
right
is-
now, but
it's
but,
funny that
I mean,
these are the things that
I know.
It's when they maybe, and I can judge Western films more because of I'm familiar with the history and the culture of the movies that we're watching. Even a French
Yeah.
film, even something from Sweden, I feel
Yeah.
comfortable because I feel like there's the shared cultural history there. So, and I would say that that's a failing on the part of screenwriters to not include, you know, if we're talking about this kind of stuff more than the actual movie, then that's a failure at some point. But it's hard when you don't know this culture and you don't know are the people there, do they have an understanding of what black magic is in Indonesia, or what traditionally?
Yeah.
I
I'm
don't know.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say yes. I think it's just an area thing. It's a cultural thing, because I can tell you from us doing other movies on this podcast from other countries, we've had similar gripes, and I'm gonna believe that all of these filmmakers and studios are competent enough that it's just not translating to you and I.
Sure,
Here in the States. It doesn't mean, because I still like this movie.
Yeah, I still like
thought
it
this
too.
was a solid movie.
Yeah.
I think there was one movie we did, and I can't remember which one it was. And it was definitely from another country, and I had like, I can't remember where it was, man.
Like a region?
I want to say it was like, oh my gosh, it was like Argentinian or something like that. It had that like almost like I don't know if it was Spanish, but it was something like that. And I thought the movie was pretty good up until a point. And then it started doing some of the similar stuff that this movie has done. So again, I think it's a region thing, a cultural thing where we're missing something here.
Sure.
So
yeah.
and I can't remember the name of the movie. And I mean, I can picture the poster right now, but I don't know if it was Argentina or from Argentina or something like that. But I felt there were things that were going on in the movie that they would know, that if they would go,
right.
oh, absolutely, like. But we're not getting it because we're not surrounded by it, or we
Sure.
haven't grown up on it. I think that's what's happening here.
I think maybe it's half that and still maybe half, because I don't know. There's still things I think that they could have thought of. They could have filled in some gaps.
I do,
but I
too.
think it's half and half. I don't know if you ever watch much anime or like Miyazaki films,
No.
like Studio Ghibli stuff.
No.
Like
Donovan definitely has. I have not.
Well, like that stuff, especially Miyazaki films, you can rest assured that especially most of them are really amazing films, that they, knew what they're doing all the way through, and they thought about everything from every angle. But some of the things that you have questions about, I just know it's cultural, because I know, like, why does everybody do this?
Yeah.
Everybody in Japan must do that. It must be a thing. I don't know why
yeah.
they're doing that, but they know why, and
Yeah.
that's fine. But for this, I'm not getting that completely. I still feel like.
Did you? And I agree with you. Did you notice that some of the words were in English?
Like
When
in the
we were
beginning,
watching,
there
noticed-
was a whole sentence that one of the
Yes.
girls said, like, "Are you getting a signal?"
Yes.
It was like, it was Indonesian, and then it was, "Are you getting a signal?"
And then there was like
I was like,
another
what?
scene where like she said help or something, or like
There
there
was
were
something else,
something
yeah.
like that. I was like, what's happening here? Is like their word and our word the same?
I wonder
I
if it's
can't
just
ima-
like a saying where
Maybe.
they know the English saying, everybody
It
knows an
threw
English
me
saying
off,
of
man.
it. Yeah.
It threw me off because I was like, well, was half this movie going to be in English and the other half is
Are they getting American commercials? So like when someone asks somebody, "Are you getting a signal?" It's like one of us like saying something in like Spanish or something based off of some commercial, or "You quiero Taco Bell," or I don't know.
I don't know, man. I know. I'm not sure. I say this: anyone out there that maybe has some sort of experience and
watching Indonesian films.
Seriously, I chime in, send us a message on Instagram or something. I'm absolutely curious because I think it's part that, man. And maybe part of it is just, I like I said, I felt like there could have been some other cool things that are happening, some other deaths. Get away from the bugs. Not so much.
Enough with the bugs, already.
Enough with the bugs. But, one death with the bugs I'm fine with. But, like, everything was bugs. And, I felt like they could have tapped into some other stuff out there. I did like some of the stuff that they did. I really did. I thought this was a solid outing. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It's kind of in the middle somewhere. Like I would recommend it to someone, but I don't think I would own it or watch it again. Does that make sense?
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I probably won't watch it again.
Yeah. I just don't need for me to.
I think it's really cool that Shudder is picking these films up and distributing them.
Yes.
And so they're offering a voice to a lot of these, indie filmmakers, especially people in different countries.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
For the movies to get out. I don't know if you've seen Mad God. That's a Shudder original.
So I haven't.
Phil Tippett's stop motion film.
I know of it.
Yeah.
I know of it. I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my radar, and I hear it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
I hear it's really like I've talked. Several people go like, "You gotta see this," and I'm like,
"It looks amazing."
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know anything about the history of Phil Tippett.
Not much. So, this was a long. He did this over a long period of time. Correct?
I don't know. It's like 30 years.
I think
or
something like that. Yeah.
So he's the guy, and it's a great story. He worked in Industrial Light and Magic, and he was their stop motion guy. He would work on all the different effects, but he was their go-to guy when they needed, like, for Star Wars films, especially Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, when they needed to have those walkers move, or they needed to have little things move, stop motion. They have the Rancor in Empire or in Return of the Jedi. These characters that are bigger, larger than life characters, but he was the stop motion guy, and he was working on Jurassic Park. And originally Jurassic Park was not supposed to be Stan Winston and ILM doing CGI, which it became. That's the landmark film for CGI, right?
Oh yeah.
So originally it was supposed to be Stan Winston doing all the big up close stuff, and this guy Phil Tippett doing all the other animals in stop motion. And that was at the point where ILM changed. A couple of guys there decided we can do this, like in the computer, and a lot of people didn't believe him, and then they started really working on it, like all their nights. And so basically his life changed over the course of that film.
Did he get like booted out?
Because they still used, because his knowledge of the way of, because he studied, the way living things move for so long to do the stop motion. They still needed his expertise and some of his stuff that he had already shot. To mimic that movement with in the computer. So they definitely still needed him, but his life changed right there. That was the film that basically stop motion wasn't done anymore, or to the extent that it used to be done. So and like I feel bad for him because he does talk a lot about like going through depressions after that and things, and like so it's like when it came out that he's finished it and it's out there, it's like that's awesome. I need to get that.
And you've seen it and it's pretty badass.
I know. I actually haven't.
You haven't watched it yet
because I just got Shudder.
You
because
did?
of this.
Yeah.
So they're putting that on Blu-ray though, so I might just pick up the Blu-ray.
Yeah. I have heard nothing but good things.
Yeah, I've heard amazing.
Definitely looks
things.
a little out there,
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely want to check it out. One of my buddies who's been on the podcast, and he does some animation and stuff. He goes, "You got to see this," and I said, "Okay, I'll put it on my list."
Yeah, it's just creature designs, like just really imaginative and like just kind of grotesque and beautiful.
Dude. I love stuff like that, man. I wish, and I understand why it's done, these days. I understand, but I am a sucker for stops, like you said, stop. Dude, I grew up on the old, when I was a kid, and I used to, around Christmas time, we'd always get like, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and and Year Without a Santa and all these. I loved them.
Yeah.
And now you look at them now, they're not as
those Rankin Bass films. I watch those every year. No,
I love them, dude. I love them. Like the Heat Miser and the stuff. Dude, my favorite, man. And I think as I've gotten older, they may not have held up for me, but they hold a place in my heart. So I can look past some of the other, but I love that stuff, man.
Oh, there's so much goes into those things.
So much.
I just watched.
Dude.
I don't know if you ever watch any of the movies by it's Leica. So Coraline, Paranorman.
Yes,
those are amazing.
I was just going to mention Coraline.
Yeah,
phenomenal. He was the same guy who worked on Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah,
everyone thinks it was Tim Burton. Well, Tim Burton has his style in there, but he's the one who did all the work.
Yeah, Henry Selick.
Yeah. I don't know if he did James. Did he do James and the Giant Peach?
Yes, he did James and the Giant Peach.
And I think he's working on another one right now. And I read about it, and I can't remember what it's called. Dude, I love those. Dude, I watched Coraline, it's so good. Like I remember playing it for Andrea when she was younger, and I find myself constantly watching it because it's just phenomenal. The amount of work they put into those could take 3 years to do.
Right.
Like it's like a minute of film could take like a month to do or something like that.
So much patience.
There's so much patience.
Yeah. It's the same rules, I guess, as just, traditional 2D animation.
Yeah.
Just so much goes into that.
It really does.
And not even just animated films, but like RoboCop.
Yeah.
That's, when you they couldn't use a computer to animate the Ed 209 or in RoboCop 2. They had to use some guy sitting there and moving these things. And then they had to juxtapose that with the live action, which is another hurdle.
It is a hurdle, and you can tell around that time frame. We just did an episode on The Gate. Did you ever see The Gate?
The Gate.
Who's
in that
one? What's his name?
No,
he's an adult now. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank right now. It sucks. This is what happens when you get older. He was in Blade. He was the bad guy in. No.
Oh, Steven Dorff.
Thank you, God. I just drew a blank.
Yeah,
I do that all the time, man. That's what sucks about getting old. A young Steven Dorff, probably like 12 or 13.
Oh.
And then a few other people that honestly they need to do a lot afterwards. But it's a cool little movie. The episode hasn't come out yet, but you would like it. The way they filmed some of this, but it's some of that stuff that you're talking about. And then they have these demons. Well, the way they did it, man, it looks almost like clay, but no, it was literally people in these rubber suits, and you have to check it out, man. You would really like this movie. There's so many of them. Like there's a shot where there looks like there's hundreds of them. Could you imagine how they would have had to have filmed that in a rubber suit? Let's say you have 4 of these people, and they have to do different poses and all these different things. And there's this one scene where you'd have to watch the movie, but there's this man. There's a story that when they were building the house, the man died and he got stuck in the walls. It's just a horror story they tell, right? Well, there's these demons, and of course they feed off of you're being scared, right? And kind of like this movie did with some, the Queen of Black Magic. They kind of fed off of their fears.
Yeah.
And so there's a scene where this old man he's walking around and looks kind of like a zombie. Well, he falls, hits the ground, and he becomes all these little demons. Dude, it was I think this was 80. I think The Gate was 87. The effect is phenomenal. But to know that they did it with all these people in rubber suits, dude, you would appreciate this. And the reason I bring it up because there's a couple scenes like that from like RoboCop, where you can tell they had to do it a certain way, and it's not great, but it's what they had to work with at the time.
Yeah, right.
You can tell. And so that's why I brought it up. Because
sometimes it looks amazing, even to this day.
Yeah.
And you think back like Indiana Jones at the end when that dude's face is being melted.
Dude, phenomenal.
Imagine them just animating that CGI today. It would just look so mundane.
Yes.
But because they did it all by hand and there's this way that they did it, it's become iconic. And not just because it's Indiana Jones, but because it's real.
Oh,
and
dude,
they had to do it a certain way because that was the only way they could do it,
what's still one of my favorite parts in Poltergeist.
Oh,
when he's picking apart his face.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Just watch that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's so many
it was
fantastic
just on last
effects
night.
in that
I was
movie.
watching it.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, Poltergeist, and we've done an episode on that too. Phenomenal movie. I mean,
Yeah.
so good. It's so good. I mean, it's Tobe Hooper, quote
He did
unquote.
Life Force, right?
Tobe Hooper, I think he did. Okay. Yeah, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Right. But, everyone says it was Steven Spielberg did it. Mm-hmm. It's just he couldn't say he did it at the time. But he was there all the time, and if you watch Poltergeist, it has Steven Spielberg all over it.
Yeah.
It really feels like it.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Let's just say Tobe Hooper did it. I don't know how much influence Spielberg had in it, but he had to have had a lot.
The look of
I think
the movie,
it was absolutely.
The interaction with the characters and the actors and these little things that they say. If you watch that next to E.T., it's just like, this is the same director.
It is, because, Steven Spielberg, he has a way when he does his movies, all the neighborhoods look like, they look the same.
Right, yeah.
Poltergeist looks like a frig,
Yeah, looks like it was the neighborhood next to the neighborhood in E.T.
Exactly, man. So, but anyways, I don't know how we got on that, but anyways. How the hell I don't even know how we went down that rabbit hole, but we got there.
Oh, I mean, we were talking about the CGI in this movie. And some of it just looks like, it's just, I mean, it's not just this movie. It's a problem.
Oh, it's a
lot
problem.
Of movies.
It's a problem with a lot of movies.
I don't know how that is cheaper to hire a bunch of companies and a bunch of people at a bunch of companies to sit there and animate things by hand, rather than have someone come in and make something.
Do you think it's because that art of doing that is kind of, the Tom Savinis of the world, the Botines of the world, they're just not as much of them now? Do you think that's why? Because I know Stan Winston, he still has his school.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I think Tom Savini has a school.
Doing that stuff.
That has to be because I will take that stuff over the CGI stuff any day.
Yeah,
unless you try it right, like you've tried the practical side of it and you can't figure out how to make it work.
Right.
Then you go to CGI.
That's Christopher Nolan.
Yeah,
and for all the problems I have with his films, a lot of his films, you take a movie like Dunkirk. Have you seen Dunkirk?
I've seen parts of it, yeah.
So there's a scene where there is a long shot of the beach, and there are a lot of tons of different soldiers down. The shot, you can see down like a mile or more down this beach, and there's soldiers, all over the place.
Yeah,
a lot of those are cutouts.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's like, it works, and it's so cheap, and they didn't have to animate anything.
It does work, because you're not going to know.
Yeah,
that far away, you're not going to know.
Right, yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Economical.
I'm sure a cutout you don't have to pay an actor.
Exactly. And then no one has to stand around until they're ready to shoot. It's let's put some cutouts down there, and nobody will know the difference, and it's totally fine.
That's brilliant.
It's a great idea. No, I like that idea. Yeah, try to do everything you can to do it practically. And maybe that leads you down a different road.
Sure.
We can only show this from this angle because you don't want to see all how the sausage is made. You can only shoot it. Well, that changes the dynamic of the scene as well.
Yeah.
But now that you can just show everything, just like, okay, we'll just have everything in frame, and we'll have a guy animated later. It does take away from stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching, because it's, October, and I know this episode won't come out until a little later, but there's a lot of horror movies on and stuff, and I was watching The Conjuring, which I still think is a great movie, and I love James Wan, and I found that there were elements that was he simplified stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a scene when the girls are sleeping and they keep getting, their leg gets pulled, and that they smell a rotten flesh, because of the demons or whatever. And one of the girls is laying in bed, and she looks at the door, and you and I can't see it, but she knows she sees something there. And as I'm watching the movie, and I don't see anything, it's just the way it's being filmed and how she's talking about it. Mm-hmm. I get scared and the hair stands up. Now, first of all, I said this 100 times. I'm a sucker for a good ghost story. I will take that over any other subgenre when it comes to horror. I just love them because I feel like they don't do a lot. There's not a lot you have to do. You know what I mean? You're just doing these little, whether it's a door opening or closing, and
just make a creak in the dark.
What
you don't see is even scarier.
That's what I'm talking about, and that's and again, it's a product of a good filmmaker, and I believe James Wan is a good film, very much so. I think he's a great filmmaker, but something as simple as that. And you got me. You've conveyed all of this without me ever seeing anything. I don't need all this other shit that you're CGI-ing. I don't need all of that crap.
Are those movies, do they have a lot of CGI in them?
They have a little.
Yeah.
They have a little. It's not bad.
What are the ones with the Conjuring? That's not the one with the two with the ghost detectives?
Yeah, with the Warrens.
Oh, okay.
That's the Warrens.
So I
know.
have a huge problem with all because
with the
that is
Warrens.
not based off of true stuff.
Yeah,
It's all bullshit.
I
Those
know.
two people made up so much of that stuff, and you can read about it.
And I have heard
it's-
that as well.
And so I have a huge problem with a lot of that whole universe, a lot of those movies, and a lot of them rely on the audience going into the theater already being afraid of something of ghosts.
Yeah.
I like the movie like Poltergeist establishes its own
For sure.
universe there. It doesn't rely on you having to believe in ghosts to be scared.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to crap on you.
No. It's okay because I've done a little research on the Warrens. I mean, hell, the original Amityville Horror is loosely based on one of their stories.
So loosely.
And folks, if you can't see me, but I'm putting my fingers up and I'm in quotes loosely, and so I do know that. What I try to do, because honestly, in my opinion, the other Conjurings weren't that good. The first one I thought was just great.
Had some good scares in it.
It really is a good movie, man. If you haven't seen it, I
don't think I saw the first one. I think I saw one of the other ones.
Oh, don't.
And it was
don't.
on, and I was just laughing my way through it.
Dude, honestly, the first one is the one to watch. It's really good because what it also does is it introduces, because Annabelle has its own movies, but what it does in this movie is it introduces Annabelle as a short story that's built into this story, and the way it's done, Scott, is really well. It's really well done, and I think you would enjoy this movie.
Maybe I have seen. Is that where they have a room where there's a bunch of ghost stuff that they're not supposed to
They
touch
have a
anything?
basement.
Yeah,
They have
and that's all the stuff that they've taken from other places that are haunted. I have seen it.
Yeah, but
I don't remember
but
it,
they've
though.
done that though. They did that in all their other movies too. So you might have seen that in other movies.
Okay.
This one I thought is done really well. He also did Insidious, which I think is a great movie. Dead Silence. Have you ever seen Dead Silence? Scott,
No.
if you haven't seen Dead Silence, dude, when you have some time, you go home and you find it and watch it. It's a damn good movie, and it has to do with dolls. And anything with dolls, I'm always a sucker for. Dolls scare me, and it's also done by James Wan. It's a really good movie.
Was
man.
it before all the?
He did Saw. So he did the initial Saw. He did the
right.
original Saw, and then he did Dead Silence, and then I think he did like The Conjuring, and then Insidious, and he's done a few other ones, and then of course he goes on to do Aquaman and one of the Fast and the Furious, and then he came back and he did Malignant, which I wasn't a fan of. Maybe I need to give it another watch. I just didn't like it. I don't think I'm going to rewatch it and like it more. I thought it was a mess, but I like what he does. I feel like he gets the genre.
Yeah.
I really do. But anyways, I think we got there because of, you can simplify and be simplistic and do practical effects and it works.
Yeah.
Because I see it all the time. You don't need a CGI or everything. You
Right,
just
yeah.
don't, and so, but anyways, I know we went on another tangent, but Queen of Black Magic,
Worth
again,
a watch.
It's worth a watch.
It's good.
It's
And
worth a watch. Check it out.
It's nice to watch things from outside your own country and get out of your
Yes.
bubble and see what people are working on in different places.
They do a lot of good stuff in other countries,
Oh,
man.
absolutely. For
dude.
the last 60 years or whatever,
Yes.
people have been. I mean, geez, more than that. When you go back to the German expressionism in the 20s, Murnau and like Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the original?
I've never seen the original Nosferatu.
man.
I've never sat down and watched it.
It's creepy as hell.
Oh, it looks like it.
Yeah,
I've seen-
everybody's
I've
seen the bits and pieces from.
I've seen
different
bits and
things, yeah.
pieces, and it scares me.
Yeah,
And so, but I've never watched it from start to finish. No.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
they did some generally creepy stuff back in those days.
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, there's a lot of great filmmaking, not just in the horror genre, but there's a lot of filmmaking in other countries. And I
Yeah.
think people get so wrapped up in their own little they get their small box, and they don't want to go outside that box because they find their comfort zone. And this is what I like. And that works for them. It doesn't work for me. And I know it doesn't work for you. No. It's like, cause you're not seeing a lot of good stuff that's out there.
Yeah. There's amazing stuff out there.
And there is. And I would say this isn't and this is a solid outing. I would say check it out,
I would check it out.
But anyways, man, hey, thanks for coming on out. We'll have you out again. And so Mandy, Life Force, we'll have to remember those.
Mandy.
So anyways,
love me some Cage.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, yeah.
Hey, everyone, thanks for listening to us rattle the last 20 minutes. We go down some rabbit holes sometimes. Anyways, everyone, take care.
Bye-bye.
You listened all the way to the end. We appreciate that. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Ear for Fear Podcast, Twitter at Ear for Fear, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Ear for Fear Podcast. You can also check out our website, earforfear.com. There we list news and events. We're available on all the main platforms, so make sure you tell a friend. We hope you come back and get an earful.